Ya yo mama 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 ya mama mama ira ra ma yero mama yero ira mama mama ira ra mo yera mama yero Rama mama yarom, Rama mama 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 yarama mama, Ra 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 yana yana mo yana. Part of the. Ay ay Rama Maya na 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 yo Ayro Mama Maya Rayanam Oyra Mayanam Tirayana Mayana Rayanam Hayrayanam Tirama Mayanam All right. This week, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, Moses tells the Jewish people what they need to do when they get to the land of Israel. And he talks about this event that's going to happen in the beginning of their arrival in the land of Israel. All the Jewish people will be gathered these two mountains, Mount Gerizim and Mount Evel. And at these two mountains, they're going to talk about very basic, fundamental laws of the Torah. And the Leviim are going to stand between these two mountains, and they're going to recite blessings for those who keep the Torah, and the opposite of blessings for those who don't keep the Torah. They're going to face one mountain and recite the blessings, and face the other mountain and recite the opposite of blessings. And before the Torah describes this event, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, Haskes to Shema Yisrael, pay attention and listen. Now that word, Haskes, is a very unusual word. In fact, Even Ezra says there is no other place in the Torah that it says that word. You can't know what this word means because you only can know from context, because this is the only place we have it. And the question is, there are many, many important things the Torah tells us, and how come over here the Torah says Haskes? There's the Ten Commandments, there's many important parts of the Torah. Haskes. Hey, or Hasket, with the for those of us who are Ashkenazically challenged. Just kidding. So, so what's the Haskes? What does that mean? Another interesting thing is, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people, today you are going to become a nation. Why will they become a nation today, of all days? They left Egypt, they got the Ten Commandments. Those are significant things which make us a nation. How come all of a sudden now they're becoming a nation? What's happening? So Rashi says, it doesn't mean today, it means every day. Every day the Torah is supposed to be looked at as if it's brand new, and that's the meaning of the words, today you become a people, every day you have to look at it as if it's brand new. But how? If the Jewish people then, who are only 40 years old, since they left Egypt, had to be told, you have to make it new to you today, how are we supposed to make the Torah brand new to us every single day, brand new? It's a brand new mitzvah, it's a brand new Torah, it's a brand new Shema, a brand new Tefillin, every single day. How is that possible? So there is a Talmudic interpretation of this word Haskes. The Talmud says in Brachos, page Samach Gimel and Beis, that Cherev al Abadim, there is a sword upon those who are boastful. By the way, I forgot to mention tonight's learning. We're dedicating tonight's learning to the neshama of Aryeh's father, Rabbi Asher ben Mordechai Halevi. Shem Hashem Avin Aliyah, l'chaim l'chaim v'ruch. So, just to recap, we have one question is, why is Moshe Rabbeinu introducing this with haskes of all things? Why is this one? What's the haskes? Second of all, it says today you become a people. What does it mean today you become a people? What does that mean? What happened that day they became a people? So we have Rashi saying every day should be like new, and we have a bigger question: how do you make it new? So before we get there,
it says the
Baal Shem Tov actually says what you're saying. Very good. Baal Shem Tov says that by thinking about the renewal of creation every moment, that's how you make Torah mitzvah. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. Tikul b'chodesh shefer. The Baal Shem Tov says, how do you make the mitzvah chodesh? By thinking about the ischachus, by thinking about how Hashem is renewing the world out of nothing. That's making Torah mitzvah. Very excellent. Excellent. So the Gemara says in Brachas, page Samach Gimel Beis, that cherev al abadim, there's a sword upon those who are boastful. The word badim doesn't just mean boastful. Badim also means those who sit separately. So Gemara says, hey, Shalom Aleichem Yossi. Like you take Yossi Gottlieb, for example. Yossi Gottlieb is a very intelligent guy, and he goes to yeshiva, and he can learn Torah at home. Why does he have to come here? So the Gemara says there's a sword upon the enemies of the Jewish people. It doesn't really mean the enemies, but the Gemara doesn't want to say there's a sword upon the Jewish people. So it says there's a sword on the enemies of the Jewish people, who are what? Who are badim. What does badim mean? Those who sit alone. That means the Gemara says, if you sit alone and study Torah, the Gemara says you are called a sinner. Even more, the Gemara says if you sit alone and study Torah, you're called foolish. Now that's a pretty harsh statement. You're studying Torah, it's doing a good thing, and the Gemara says you're sitting by yourself to study Torah. Cherav al abadim, you're considered a sinner, you're considered foolish. Why? Why is that? Why is it so important to be together to study Torah? The simple reason is that everyone has their own perspective. When you learn by yourself, you only have one perspective, and you learn with someone else, and it gives you a broader understanding.
What if you're online?
Online, together, all the Jewish people? All the Jewish people are online.
No, but Eric says even if one...
Excellent. Excellent. The same Gemara, the same Talmud which tells us that if you study Torah by yourself, you will be foolish, you'll be considered a sinner. The same Talmud in Pirkei Avos tells us, yes, it's true, when 10 people study Torah together, the Shekhinah is there. But the Gemara continues, Mishnah continues and says, and how do we know even one person studying Torah by himself, that Hashem also gives him a bracha? It says in the Torah, every place you mention my name, God says, I'll come to you and bless you. So you see the Gemara is not so exclusive. It's possible to study Torah by yourself, and God comes to you and blesses you when you study Torah by yourself. So why does the Gemara sword of being separate? There's a sword if you study Torah separately, you're foolish, you're a sinner. What does that mean? So the Pele Yoetz says there's a special nacha, special pleasure God has when you study Torah with a group. Special pleasure God has. Okay, but that doesn't really answer the question. Because the Pirkei Avos also says Torah could only be acquired with a group. You can only get Torah, only acquire Torah when there's a group. So the question is, only acquire Torah? Yes, I'll if I learn the Mishnah Berurah by myself and learn with someone else, I'll have a broader perspective, I'll get another angle. But if I learn it by myself, I will understand something. I won't understand everything. And even if I study with a chavrus, I won't understand everything. So why does the Mishnah say you can only get the Torah, only acquire Torah b'chabura, with a group? You can't get it by yourself. And even more, the harsh words of the Gemara and Brachas, there's a sword, there's a sin, there's a foolishness that's going to happen to you if you study Torah by yourself. What does that mean? So in short, we have three questions. Number one, how can you make Torah new every day? Question number two, how come you can only acquire Torah with the group? And what does it mean to acquire Torah in the first place? So, yesterday was the birth of the Baal Shem Tov, and it says that when the Baal Shem Tov was born, he brought a renewal of life to the Jewish people. It says in chassidus, when someone faints, the way to revive them is by whispering their name. Say their name, and that makes them wake up. So the Jewish people, after Khmelnytsky and all the pogroms that happened, there was a great state of weakness by the Jewish people. And God sent the neshama of the Baal Shem Tov, who actually has a name of the Jewish people, Yisrael. So by God sending this neshama, it was like as if God was calling us by our name, Yisrael, and waking us up. And that actually caused the revolution of life to the Jewish people. There was a similar state among the Jewish people there was classes. There was the lords and there were the serfs, there was the Torah scholars, there was the ignorant, and there was a big divide, and Baal Shem Tov brought life to everybody. Baal Shem Tov taught how a Jew says a pasuk in Torah, a Jew says Amen Yishmer Rabba, how precious that is, and that made people it says about Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was the first one to give light. Before Avram Avinu, they were great people, but they were called men of darkness. The first one who gave light was Avram Avinu, who taught people how they can connect them by themselves to God. He spread the word. So Baal Shem Tov also, he taught people, when you say Amen Yishmer Rabba, it does something. It made everyone alive. So what was the secret of the Baal Shem Tov's success? What was his... There's someone you can go talk on and on about Baal Shem Tov. What was his trick? What was Baal Shem Tov's trick? George Burns, all shalom, said of art, he says there's one key to great acting. The key to great acting is there's a trick. The trick is sincerity. If you could fake that, then you got it made. So the key of success of Baal Shem Tov was one thing. It sounds simple, but this is the answer. The answer is neshama. The answer is soul. Everybody has a soul. Every mitzvah has a soul. The Torah has a soul. And the Baal Shem Tov, he connected to the soul of each person. He brought out the soul of every Jew. And when your neshama is shining, so then you're alive, you're happy, you're vibrant, it's a different life. Your neshama is there. So Baal Shem Tov brought that out in everybody. And that's what the teachings of chassidus do. Chassidus is called chayas, life. Chassidus there's many things that chassidus brought about in the world, different novelties in Yiddishkeit, but all the novelties stem from one thing, chayas. Chassidus brought life to Yiddishkeit. There are many things that were true, and everyone knew about them, but they weren't emphasized. Chassidus brought an emphasis and a life to many things. For example, there's a pasuk that any Ashkenazi who hasn't Chassidus has never heard of, but every Sephardic man has heard this pasuk. Which pasuk? Forever Hashem, your word is in the heavens. You know how sometimes we have in davening we repeat a pasuk 3 times? By Sephardim they repeat the same pasuk 21 times, 12 times. One of the number one pasukim they repeat throughout the davening of Rosh Hashanah is Olam Hashem Dorach Nitzah Shemayim. Forever Hashem, your word is in the heavens. It wouldn't. If they did it by Ashkenazim, by the 6th time, everyone would be walking out on and would it work?
Get rid of the chassidus.
There'll be a riot. He said it again. I heard he said it 5 times already. How many times is he going to say it?
They don't say it's possible.
Huh?
They say the davening is possible.
So what does this pasuk emphasize? It emphasizes the truth that the Baal Shem Tov revealed, which it says in the Medrash is truth. That Hashem creates the world every moment anew. That's the truth. That's the truth. Baal Shem Tov emphasized that and revealed it and made the world a different world. As you said before, that when the way the Baal Shem Tov said the key to keeping Torah mitzvahs in a way that it's fresh is by thinking about how God renews the world every moment. But it's not just about the concept. When you have that concept in your mind, what happens to you? Your neshama wakes up. So Baal Shem Tov brought a renewal in Yiddishkeit, not just a renewal. He made it possible for us every day to look at Torah mitzvahs and feel that it's new. Why is it new? Because what happens when you have a good joke? You have a good joke, you share the good joke with a friend. And then you share the good joke with your people at work. Then you share the good joke with your family. Then you share the good joke at the Kiddush. Now, if you share the same joke to the same person twice, what happens? It's old. It's boring. What happens if you share it to them a 3rd time? It gets annoyed with you. What are you saying this to me for? But if you're sharing the same joke to all these different audiences, it's alive each time. Why is it alive each time? The joke you heard, you know the joke. You said it 5 times already. You know what's new? Because it's you. You're new. It's your joke. You're sharing it. It's a different audience, so you're new. The Baal Shem Tov, he revealed the neshama in a Jew, and he made it possible for us to feel the Yiddishkeit is alive. The Rebbe said the words, Baal Shem Tov reached the essence of a Jew, And through reaching the essence of a Jew, that trickled down into a Jew's mind, a Jew's heart, that started to live differently. Rabbi Shais Taub said an amazing thing last night. Unbelievable. He said, it's in Hayom Yom, it says these words. It says, until the Baal Shem Tov, there was a concept that the Rosh Hashiva, the head of the yeshiva, was alone, and the students were alone. And the Baal Shem Tov accomplished that they're no longer alone. The Rosh Hashiva isn't alone, and the students aren't alone. I never understood what that meant. What does that mean? The Baal Shem Tov accomplished it. But Rabbi Shai said a very interesting thing. He said, Baal Shem Tov wanted that every single person should understand godliness, that our animal soul, especially with the teachings of the chassidus Chabad, that your mind, that you should be able to look at the faith and you should be able to explain it in a way that makes sense, that's meaningful. You should take concepts of emunah, of faith, and you should be able to talk about them in a way that's relevant and meaningful. And not just your neshama should understand it, your animal soul. So that's the meaning of the Rebbe is not alone, because you're looking at the world the same way he is. You're not, of course, you're not a neshama like he does, but you have your perspective and you get it. The Rebbe is not alone. You also get what the Rebbe is saying in your mind. That's one element of chassidus, the teachings of chassidus. Another element of chassidus, it says in Hayom Yom Chavdal Tevis, in Yartz Dal Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek once asked, what did my grandfather want to accomplish with chassidus, and what did he want to accomplish with the ways of chassidus? So the Tzemach Tzedek said, with the teachings of chassidus, the goal of the ways of chassidus is that all chassidim should be like one family, united in love according to the Torah. And chassidus itself, the teachings of chassidus, is vitality, bringing energy and light into everything, even to those things that are undesirable. We should recognize our own evil as it is so that we can correct it. So chassidus brings life into everything. And what is the paths of chassidus? Paths of chassidus means like davening, it means at length. But tonight I want to focus on one of the things that we're doing right now, a farbrengen, getting together. What's the point of a farbrengen? The point of a farbrengen is you should get together and they should accomplish the idea of Avos Yisrael. A farbrengen, one thing that a farbrengen accomplishes is it's kind of like a group therapy. That everyone shares, there's a focus, it's personal, it's intimate, it's emotional, there's a common issue, everyone is goal oriented, and everyone shares. And how could one person teach you? What does he have that you don't have? Because everyone has their own experience, and even though people have the same experience, they experience the same thing differently. So it's possible to learn from everyone. That's the idea of a farbrengen. That's one idea of a farbrengen. You get together and you share and you learn from each other. So this is the answer to our first question. Our first question is, how is it possible for Yiddishkeit to be new every day? The way it's possible for it to be new is through the neshama. And how do you access your neshama? You access your neshama through the paths of chassidus, and especially through a farbrengen. You get together by farbrengen. Farbrengen evokes this idea of, there are some Jewish groups, the way they make people attracted to Judaism is sort of like shock and awe. Shock and awe, I don't know if that's commonly used in the military, but I remember when in the Persian Gulf War, that's the language they were using about the attack on Iraq. Shock and awe. General Schwarzkopf was talking about the first attack on Iraq. What are we trying to do? We're trying to do shock and awe. So there is some people, their path in promoting Yiddishkeit is shock and awe. What's shock and awe? They show you all these facts and figures and statistics, and you're like, whoa, Judaism, it's pretty cool. But not necessarily does that stay with you. Shock and awe, you're impressed, but there's another group of Jews which they do even worse. Not just they try to prove the authenticity of Torah, but they say at the end of the presentation, who wants to now wear a tichel? Who wants to cover their hair right now? Who wants to now wear a tzitzis? And some people are in such a state of shock and awe, they're afraid they're going to go to hell if they don't wear the tzitzis right then and there, and they better put on the tzitzis, and the next day they wake up like, what am I doing, and who am I, why this guy got me, and they feel resentment. What do chassidim do? We get together, we sing a niggin, we say l'chaim. What's the difference? What are we trying to do? We're trying to get to the neshama. We're not trying to give you a new idea, we're trying to get to our neshama, we're trying to reach something deeper inside. There is a fascinating halacha like this. Halacha said like this: if thieves come into a house and they say that we didn't touch anything. So the question is, the laws of ritual purity and impurity are very complicated. Can we trust them? So the Gemara says that there's various different kinds of objects that people are considered trustworthy for. Then there is the law of truma. Truma is more complex, and there's a group of people which are called chaverim. Chaverim means trusted people. People which are not chaverim, people who aren't accepted, who are not known to be faithful to the laws of truma, aren't accepted, and if they touch the truma is, even if they say, I'm pure, but they don't know any better, and they don't care necessarily. So if they are around and they touch the truma, forget about it. You have to throw it out, they have to burn it, they're impure. But if it's during a holiday, Gemara says during a holiday, everyone's believed. If someone says during a holiday that he is pure, we trust them. Why? Why do we trust them in the holiday? The simple answer is, in the holiday is a time of heightened spiritual awareness. On a yontif, everyone's a little more excited about God and Yiddishkeit and Torah and mitzvahs. So if they say on a holiday, I'm telling you I'm ritually pure, we should trust them. That's one explanation. But I'll tell you a deeper explanation. Unbelievable. Deeper explanation like this. You know what happens on a holiday?
People bring their stuff in, they sell their stuff.
I'm sure I'll tell you what happens on a yontif. I'm going to tell you what happens on a yontif. There was one year that a lot of people were able to leave Russia, and they made a event to welcome all those who left Russia. The Rebbe told some chassidim who left that year they should come to this gathering, which one of the dignitaries that was attending this gathering was Moshe Feinstein. The two older chassidim come to the gathering, and Moshe Feinstein notices immediately there's two guys there with beards, and he's shocked. How can people have beards coming out of Russia? So he goes over to one of them, and he says, how did you do this? How did you have a beard in Russia in the hard times? So he looks at Moshe through his broken glasses, and he says, Abrera migahat. Do we have a choice? That was his answer. Then Moshe goes over to the other chassid, Matal Kazliner said an interesting thing. He said, every yontif, every shabbos, we held on to each other with Avos Yisrael. That's how we did it. We held on to each other every time we had a chance. Every yontif, every shabbos, every special occasion, we held on to each other. That's how we did it. On halacha says, on a yontif, all Yisrael are chaverim. What's chaverim mean? They lose an identity of an individual, and they become in the status of a tzibur, of a community. You're no longer considered like one person. You're considered like part of a group. So you as an individual, you have your halacha as an individual. On Yontif, the joy of the Yontif, the fact that everyone's getting together in Jerusalem, halacha, they're not considered anymore like an individual. That's a deeper explanation. Now let's get even deeper. Why is that on Yontif everyone gets together? What about the Yontif makes everyone connected? On a Yontif, there's a revelation of the Yechidah, of the deepest part of the Neshama. And therefore, Jews get together. And when they get together, or perhaps the opposite, by the getting together, they discover their yichid. They're getting together, and with Avos Yisrael, the deepest part of the neshama is revealed. That part of the neshama can never become impure, because on a yontif, everyone's getting together. What's really happening? On a yontif, everyone is losing their identity as I am me, and you are you, and in the language of Popeye, I am what I am. That's all I am. On a yontif, you get together other people, and you discover your neshama. That part of your neshama can never become impure. That's why the halacha says you're trusted. What do you mean you're trusted? On a yontiv, you're no longer a separate entity. On yontiv, your essence is revealed. And that's why it's so important to. The Rebbe even said like this: usually, chayelo make a farbrengen in shul. Everyone that comes to shul, the Rebbe says, don't just have a farbrengen in shul. Everyone should have a farbrengen in their house. Everyone should get together with their family. Yes, you have to also have one big farbrengen. With the glory of the king is when there's a lot of people. That's true. But besides that, there is a very great power of just gathering together your family with achdus to get together. We all know the story of the Baal Shem Tov, of the Alter Rebbe. That there was a time in the Alter Rebbe, there was a chassid who was very sick, and the chassidim were in the middle of a farbrengen. And the chassid said, "Please, I need a bracha to get better." And everyone's like, "Oh, how can we give you a bracha? It's like an insult that we're going to give you a bracha." And the Alter Rebbe said that a paper came down from heaven. The paper from heaven said, by the way, there's a similar expression about something else. Who knows where that expression is used also? Who knows what else we know that a paper came down from heaven about? Baruch Shamar. Very good. Baruch Shamar also says that the 87 words of Baruch Shamar came down from a paper from heaven. Piskum Shemayim Achis. It would have been so cool to find that paper, Imagine a paper coming down from heaven. Anyways, so the paper came down from heaven and it said, when a chassidim get together by a farbrengen and wish each other well, it accomplishes more than Malach Mochal. So, more than Malach Mochal can accomplish. More than the angel Mochal, who he beseeches upon the Jewish people all the time, he's our defending attorney in heaven. More than him, when he didn't get together by farbrengen, they can accomplish more by wishing each other well. That's what a farbrengen is. In fact, the Friedrich Rebbe said even more. He said the greatest prayers that were ever said were said by a man named Rabbi Shmuel, who was a Kohen Gadol. And when were they said? They were said by on Yom Kippur. But the Friedrich Rebbe said, when a Jew wishes another Jew well, by a farbrengen, with love, it's accepted by God more than the prayers of Shmuel Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur in the Kodesh HaKadosh. Okay, so let's get back to the idea of, just to answer our questions, and we'll stop. The answer our questions is, we asked a question, first of all, how do we keep Yiddishkeit new and fresh? And the answer is by discovering our neshama. How you discovering neshama? By getting together with other Yidden, together with Avos Yisrael. And the next question was, and no one was saying there's jeopardy in the I'll remember the question. The question is why is Moshe Rabbeinu telling them that day they became new people? Oh, I'm sorry. We answered that question. Question was, what does it mean to acquire Torah? What does it mean to acquire Torah? Torah is only complete. You can only acquire Torah in a group. And if you don't have a group, then you're not going to acquire Torah. And the Gemara says all these terrible things about you. What does it mean of acquiring Torah? Acquiring Torah means that it's practical, that it's real, that it's alive. The Friedrich Rebbe said during this time of Elul, Jews should talk to each other about what it means Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Each person should strengthen his friend, and you can't do it by yourself. As the Mittler Rebbe said, these words: "Is one Jew by himself is one godly soul against one animal soul. When you have a group of people together, it's a lot of neshamas against one animal soul, because my animal soul is selfish, only cares about me. My neshama cares about you, cares about everybody. So when by farbrengen, there's a special power of achdus and bracha to get the right place. This is the best preparation for Shoshana. Shoshana is all about one thing. Hashem bless us all as one. That's the whole thing of Rosh Hashanah. Achdus Yisrael. The Medrash says each Jew by himself is like a twig. Get together, it's like a bunch of twigs gathered together that you can't break them. So l'chaim levracha. The Eibush should help us that we should prepare for Rosh Hashanah. We need to prepare for Rosh Hashanah. The Eibush should bless us all with chassidus and matei shatem sukkah. And we should see Mashiach Tzedekenu even before Rosh Hashanah to take from mamash. L'chaim levracha. No, Anigan Chazan. I don't know. What did you say? Keili atov yodeko oye loi kayaroi memeko oye keili